it's a dangerous formula when you've got a youngster that's 18, 19 years old, that's wounded, some cases severely, medications, narcotics, all that stuff, in the room all by himself. And I mean, he's at night all by himself. So it's just a bad setup. So Tim Maxwell was coming to me, he said, sir, we need to get them all together. And I said, well, how will we do this? Because it was different, we'd never done it before. Well, sir, we need to find a place where we can put these Marines, and I'll become their dad. I'm a lieutenant colonel, I'll become their dad. And there was a couple of staff NCOs, by the way, like gunnery sergeants and that had also were wounded, and Tim had kind of put his arms around them. And so I kind of went back and forth on this thing, and I'd like to say that, boy, I thought it was brilliant and I just jumped on it. No, I actually kind of thought about it a lot. And I checked with the units, I checked with the regimental commanders that were forward deployed, and they said, sir, don't do that. We want our Marine, our Marine that wears our colors. We want him in our barracks being cared for by our staff NCO that was in the back. And I understand that. Because I like this thing called unity of command. I like that. But after about 2 or 3 weeks, I figured it wasn't going to work. And so I went to General Dickerson, and again, a great partner of mine, the base CG. And right next to the MEF headquarters was this brick building. They're all brick out there. And it's kind of an H-shaped thing, and it was the old nurses' barracks, nurses BOQ, because that used to be the Naval Hospital right there next to it. So the nurses stayed there. And so there were all these rooms, and each room, had a bathroom in it and stuff like that. And so he renovated, as I recall, 10 rooms, because we had to widen the doors. We had to get new beds in there, and that kind of stuff. We widened it, put them in there, and it was a pickup team. But it began to work. It began to make sense. And Tim had guys driving vans, taking kids. There were Modern Hospital. This is just to show you how maybe not quite enthusiastic leaderships of organizations were. We asked for a corpsman, and we got a corpsman who had just come back. He was wounded, and he was blind. Now, he wasn't dark blind, but he couldn't see you. He would come up to me and I'd come up to him and I'd talk to him, and he'd grab my collar and look at my stars, and then he'd pull his eyeball right up to it, and then he could count the stars, and he'd go, well, General Amos, it's good to see you. He couldn't, but he knew how to minister medications, and his heart was in the right spot because he'd been blown up. It caught on. And then all of a sudden, one of my regimental commanders, Steve Davis, had 2nd Marines. Steve said, this is the greatest thing that's happened. You're taking care of my Marines. And Steve's a great warrior, and once Steve signed on, then it took off. And we went from 10 rooms to 20, to the entire bottom floor, then the entire top floor. The entire building got renovated. We had partners out in town. That was pretty neat. We had Itchy Popkin out in town. Had a furniture store, and Itchy, next thing I know, is there's his vans showing up with new mattresses, new beds, new TVs, new nice chairs like this, and so it became, I'll tell you, the community put their arms around it. And we didn't call it the Wounded Warrior Battalion. We didn't have that. It was just the Wounded Warrior Barracks. And Tim Maxwell was running that. And we got some more staff NCOs, and they were wounded, and they took it. And, families were sending food over. These kids had more food. They became rock stars. So that became, I think, I know, that became the role model. Secretary of Defense came down and looked at it. The Commandant of the Marine Corps came down and looked at it, General Hagee. And so when General Conway became the Commandant, he said, I want to set one of those up on the West Coast. and I want to set up 2 battalions, 2 Wounded Warrior battalions, and a regimental headquarters back at Quantico. And that's how it began, and it exists to this day. And the other services, I think through the there's a lot of inter-service rivalry. If it wasn't invented in this service, then we don't want any part of it. But Secretary of Defense, I think, and the press kind of pushed this, and it caught on, and principally the Army and the other services. So it's one of those great positive stories that came out of a lot of heartache, and I owe a lot of it, almost all of it, to Lieutenant Colonel Tim Maxwell.